team, this is their biomaster, David Moore, and John Harris. These are some of their discovery applications. This is what they'd like to do if they could. So Derek does optomechanical arrays and quantum hops. Dave Moore wants to suspend microspheres and control them over like this kind of lattice cube shade. And then Harris is working on a superfluid optomechanics for quantum regions. And this is all of the stuff that they really like to do on chip. So we have this huge team, right? So we just take a look at like Derek's problem. So Derek's got like these quantum cavities. He's got these weird membranes that I don't understand at all, but they're made of some sort of crystal lattice, and apparently they deform. And so we need to keep these in perfect alignment. And that's a huge computational problem. And it requires like these huge machine learning algorithms, right? And we really like to get these in real time. We have to cool each membrane to the ground state and do some cyclone cooling. And then, once we've done all of this, we can use this full filter cavity mechanical device as a single photon detector. And then we can do some optical stirrup, which means that we can start to swap pulses and do some quantum entanglement. So it's actually a pretty cool experiment. It took me a while to wrap my head around it though. So to do this, we need to do some laser locking to the cavity per membrane. We have to do the membrane frequency readout because the frequency is going to drift. We need the feedback control precise to about 1 nanometer because they've got to be in perfect alignment so that you can get quantum entanglement. Otherwise, your particles are going to drift, your atoms. And then we need a verification of a near ground state coolant so we can make sure that they're in the ground state when we stop the experiment. And then he needs a chain of these cavities. So now, we're not just doing one, now he's got like a whole chain of cavities to control, and they all need to be locked to the same cavity frequency. And then, once we've done all of that, maybe we can do the optical stirrup thing. And so we need about 20 active controls just for this one experiment. And a lot of them are going to need complex optimization to run in parallel. And I'm not the only person who works on controls. I do the hardware side of the controls. We've got like a team of about 20 people in controls who do like multi-variable controls, this type of controls and that. And we all get together and like try and figure out how we're going to like reduce these algorithms to like really optimal chips. So it's kind of cool. So this is Derek's experiment. I'm sure my students now recognize what is this, Cameron? Robert?
A photon detector.
No. What's the thing in the middle? Harrell?
I'm not sure. I can't see.
Cryogenic freezer. You just saw one yesterday, right?
Dill fridge.
You can see
Yeah,
that.
there you go. And so, apparently his little cavity is like, it's here somewhere. It's like this little tiny thing. And he's got like this whole room with like this whole thing in it. And so what he really wants to do is he wants to get all of this stuff. And so we want to design something like this. So that is called experiment application. And we put the controls on the chip, the polarization split to the reference properties, everything, and do some, and that's a whole different problem, right? The low temperature integrated control system. This is a really interesting problem. So 3 of the team do spectroscopy. They're all manipulating or entangling photons. So Nick Husler, Andrew Jayevich, and David Patterson. And so what they really need to do is apparently they need a lot of lasers. They need for them to be really tunable. They want a wide range of colors. They want them to be pulsed or continuous width, and they need frequency reference like this. That's what they asked Santa Claus for. And what we want to do is give them something like this, right? So on the top right, you see the scientists who are actually coming up with the discoveries, And on the side, you see the control team and the integrated photonics team. Apparently, once they've done all of that and they've got the little gift bag from Santa Claus, then they need to cool it. And so you see like the state transitions on the side. Again, tunable, highly modulated spectral purity and beam control. So we need to do something like this. And again, you see the control team and the hardware team and the photonics team on the side. So for every problem that they give us, we have to put together a convergence team that can solve one part of the problem. And we all have to sit down together and figure out, we need a unified solution. You know, because if Dan goes off and just does his little integrated photonics, and I go off and do a bit of hardware, you know, and Jose goes off and does a little bit of controls and stuff on the way. So we have to have one unified solution before we even start to put these things together. So, final part of the experiment. I put this up there just for you because you asked me about this. Preparation and readout. So this is actually really interesting. So if you look at the side, this is the timer and this is the timer that we have to do the readout, right? So the top block is 60 seconds across. So you see we're reading N at like one per second, and then we've got our E and our theta and our beta. And so this is a 60-second block, and we're taking one reading a second. That's one block. And now when we go to the next part of the readout, it's just one block in our super block. Right? So for every time we do a whole set of these, then we have to come and control one set of these, right? So it's like a super block. And then the same thing happens once we've done these. This is a 40-minute interval. Then we have to use these to solve for these. This is like 15 hours. And so on and so forth. And so the controls becomes like really, really, really complicated. And what they normally do is they let something run, and then you're after 4 days, somebody comes into the lab, tweaks some knobs, and then they leave again for another 5 days. And so they want to automate this entire process. So once again, we have a set of challenges on the left, and we have some possible solutions in the center. And each of these solutions is going to require a team that can basically do all of the stuff in the middle. So we've got to put together like these huge convergence teams, and we all have to speak each other's language. All right, so space-based instrumentation. Well, I've always done this. So I work with the astrophysicists at NASA Goddard. We've just proposed an instrument called TIGRS, which is a ultra-heavy galactic cosmic ray detector. Ooh. But I don't know anything about that. I just do the electronics in the middle. So this is actually one of the proposed designs, which is a time-of-flight detector. And this is going to, right now this diagram is actually a rad-hardened FPGA, but the rad-hardened FPGA, the igloo, isn't big enough, it doesn't contain enough logic for us to actually do all of the signal processing that we want to do on board the instrument. This instrument is not really in a high radiation temperature environment. It's like at the International Space Station, but we still got to take care of the radiation effects. Again, this is a huge team. The lead is Washington University in St. Louis, Brian Rauch. We have the NASA Goddard Space Flight Center, then we've got the Howard Center. Harrell is right over there. And then we've got University of Maryland, Vanderlei Martins and Robert. And then Penn State, we've got Stephen Cantu, who's the SIPM lead, and then we've got Northern Kentucky University and the Cal Institute of Technology. So once again, we all work together to kind of solve these problems. This is a quick look at one of Harrell's problems that he needs to solve real quick. So Harrell's been tasked with coming up with a good protocol. So he needs to come up with a test and readout protocol so that we can test all of the electronics before we actually put the thing together. And he can look at various solutions, but the team is really interested in using SRAM-based FPGAs. Why? Because they are huge in Logic Fabric. We can do a lot of onboard processing. There's some other problems, and one of them is because the SRAM based, they are particularly susceptible to seize. And so Harel's job is to come up with a way to test them and then a way to mitigate them, and he's going to have to find some sort of design trade-off in the middle. And then I do a bit of workforce development. Kayla Lee is here from the IBM HPC Quantum Center. So this center brings together 23 HPCUs, and the mission is to give the HPCUs access to resources that they would not normally have, to establish some educational support and some research at these facilities so that they can start to develop excellence at each institution. We've got some sample research at the side, some research awards that we did last year. The center currently supports 27 undergraduates and 5 graduate students, and this year we're going to support 17 graduate students and 12 undergraduates. At Howard, we've just started our new Silicon Initiative, so now we can teach our students tape out, we can send the chips out for tests, for fab, and then when the chips come back, we're going to teach them how to do the whole silicon validation bring-up. And the goal of this is basically to produce the silicon engineers of the future.